It's 7 o'clock. We call this hearing to order. Please stand for the pledge.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I go over the why we're here, we have a motion to get in the public hearing.
So, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. We're here because the 2025 Minnesota Legislature repealed the mandatory shotgun only zone effective for the 2026 season. Counties previously in the zone have the option to pass a local ordinance to keep the restriction on shotgun only. By March 1st, 2026, the Minnesota DNR will notify counties about this option to pass a restrictive ordinance. The change aligns southern Minnesota rules with the rest of the state, allowing more flexibility in equipment. And according to the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, the previous shotgun only rule was designed to limit harvest rates, but not for safety reasons, as is often assumed. So with that introduction, I guess anyone who wants to speak, if they could just come to the podium, state their name. I'll try to limit it to maybe 3 to 5 minutes or something. Just tell us what you think about all this.
Mr. Chairman, I want to explain that this is a hearing, not an official.
Well, yeah, we won't be taking any action or anything. We're just here to collect public input.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Rick Porter. I spent the majority of my adult life in the military. And I have shot everything from small arms to cannons to rocket launchers, so I'm pretty familiar with safety aspects of it. And in the long run, I do believe this is going to boil down to not just herd management, but I think the biggest concern is safety, not only for personnel, but for farm buildings and farm animals, etc. But a couple of points I'd like to make, I think, I guess in my opinion, a lot of it's common sense, but you know, in the end, it's just my opinion, and I'm certainly welcome to hear others. I think that rifles versus shotguns the rifles are superior in range, accuracy, and versatility. I mean, I don't think anybody would question that. Some may argue that the saplet slugs are accurate, but they still, I mean, from personal experience, and I've been hunting animals since I've been legal to 12 years old, and I may have hunted a little bit before then for small animals up in our growing up. But I sincerely believe that with a rifle, you're going to have one shot, one kill. You're going to have less animals being wounded, running off and dying someplace, and that animal is not being harvested for its intent. Whether some people are shooting for horns or whether they're shooting for meat, if they're shooting for horns, I think the majority of them still eat the meat and put to good use. Other items to take into account as far as with the rifles, they're not only they're accurate, but they without a doubt reduce wounded animals running off. But for young kids getting into this, shooting a rifle such as like a 243 has far less recoil than a 12 gauge or even a 20 gauge shotgun. So for the young kids who are going to be the next generation of hunters, I believe it's number one imperative that they undergo the firearms training, which they need to get their hunting license. But you know, I hope there's enough adult stewards of the sport that are teaching their young kids. I take my grandsons out every year and teach them safety. I've been around safety in the military. I know what needs to be done to ensure that they pay attention and do things the right way. Also with rifles, you have a scope on that rifle. It helps considerably with positive identification of your target. Most accidents that occur with hunting are careless handling of a firearm, or from not properly IDing your target. Well, one thing to help that is to have a scope, which brings that target into a close view, making it much safer. Rifles, you can also put a suppressor on, which helps with recoil. Recoil on rifles is far less than on shotguns. So that young 12-year-old skinny boy or young gal that, what option do they have right now other than use a 20 gauge shotgun? Well, a 12-year-old kid, that thing still bucks on their shoulder quite a bit. Left hand, right hand doesn't make a difference. That's a pretty powerful weapon for a young kid, where they could take a 223 or a 243 minimal kick, and if you have a suppressor for that, the kick on them thing is minimal, and the accuracy is far better than a shotgun. So I guess in the long run, I mean, our population in Pipestone County is decreasing, has been for decades. The number of farm animals that are out there is nothing like it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, we had every farmstead out there had cows, pigs, chickens, and now you drive around the country, there's all the hogs are in confinements. Very few of them do range or free range pigs. The animals just aren't out there like they used to be. So I think the argument for danger to cattle and whatnot is no greater than it is with slugs. Anyway, I hope that helps clarify some things, and I'm not just speaking from wants or needs. I'm speaking from experience as far as dealing with firearms. I've been around them my entire life when I was a young kid. More than I ever cared to shoot them in the military. I'll take that in consideration. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What a picture here. Present the guy.
You're okay?
Showing here back there, okay? First, I'll take the good evening, gentlemen. Good to be here.
Could you tell us your name too when you come up?
I'm Dave Summers from Dave's Guns here in town. As Luke had told us earlier about the history of slug hunting came about in 1942 for population control. And when that happened, hunters changed the way they hunted from rifles and went to party hunting. So that's where the party hunting came along, because they couldn't get to the deer because the guns didn't have the range that rifles and slugs were very bad back then. So that with the number of hunters they had, it was easy for them to do it. Now the numbers of hunters have dropped, deer populations have increased, now they're dropping off. Populations increased, now the number of hunters have dropped, so now we're able to go back to individuals hunting, which I'm seeing a lot in the store when I have people coming in, they're talking to me. They're hunting using blinds and using tree stands. And then they have avenues of shooting when you're doing that, so you know where everything is. You're not party hunting where you see a deer comes up and then they just start blasting rounds out there, throwing shots out, many shots just trying to hit the deer, where with a rifle they're going to be able to do so a lot easier. Slugs tend to skip because they're heavy and they're soft and malleable. When they do strike the ground and skip or ricochet, because of the weight and the mass, they'll carry further than a rifle bullet. When a rifle bullet strikes the ground, the energy tends to be absorbed more, the bullet breaks out and then doesn't carry very far. In tests done by the military, they found that when firing a slug, it actually ends up further down range than a rifle bullet does. So that the old theory of slug hunting being safer really isn't, I don't believe at all. Types of guns currently used on that piece of paper, which one of those guns was legal last year? The top gun is actually a .308 pistol and was completely legal to hunt. Bottom gun is a .308 rifle. The only difference is 2.5 inches length and barrel.
Could you leave the buttstock on? It's not a buttstock, that's a pistol brace. That's a whole different subject. We won't go into that here. That's literally a pistol brace at the top.
And people use it as a buttstock.
It can be shouldered. There's still some issues with that, but right now that is completely legal to use in that. I have a lot of people coming in. Most of my customers are going to pistols like that, AR pistols, because you can get them in multiple different calibers. And so we see that a lot to get away from those slugs. I had a gentleman even asking me this afternoon, hoping that we stick with and stay with rifle hunting this next year, because he's getting older and some of us are a little gray. And so the slugs are a little hard to shoot. They get to be, you don't recover as fast. On a rifle, you can mitigate that recoil with the muzzle brake, with suppressors, and they just don't kick as hard. So to get the older hunters to stay out there, like this gentleman was, he wants us to be able to hunt yet, and to get new younger hunters in to be able to get guns that are more manageable would make things far safer and far better for our population. You know, the variances and out there in people and the way they're doing it is just amazing. See that how much they have changed in the last few years and gone to the individual hunting away from party hunting. Safety wise, I think it's far safer if we stick with what state has said and gone to rifle. Thank you for your time.
Heini Walhoff. I've been slug hunting for 50 years and I'm looking forward to using a rifle. Yeah, rifles, like I said, some of them are lighter, some of them less recoil. The sable slugs are $3 to $4 a piece, and looking the other day, you get 308 or 30-06 shells for about $1.40 each. And rifles, like they say, are more accurate, a little more range. I'm also a firearm instructor, safety instructor for youth out of Edgerton. Been doing that for 35 years. One of the safety rules we drill into the kids is be sure of your target and beyond. So if everybody's doing that, which they should be doing, I think rifles have a good place. North Dakota's using rifles, South Dakota's using rifles, Iowa's using rifles, Wisconsin's using rifles, Northern Minnesota's using rifles. I'm looking forward to it, right? Thank you.
Matt Detterman. I've been a deer hunter for about 30 years. I live in rural Pipestone County on an average sized acreage, which is about 8 acres. My property is about 150 yards long, which is the range of a slug shotgun or traditional muzzleloader. And I have 3 neighbors that are 200, 350, and 450 yards away from me, meaning our properties are out of range of a traditional firearm with a responsible shot. And on any given day during the firearm season, there can be numerous hunters seen in orange. With that, I am very concerned for the safety of my family, children, and neighbors that would now be in direct dangerous range of the replacement of a modern rifle, with which are very accurate up to 600 yards. I am concerned for my colleagues and my coworkers that work in a rural setting every day. How does this differ from a traditional rifle zone that already exists? First off, the landscapes are many miles, the sections are many miles apart. Homes are much further apart, and this landscape is much more densely covered with trees. The biggest difference is during the hunting season, the land is not at its busiest time. There are not tractors being operated in the woods. There are not cattle grazing on a freshly combined field. The construction season is not at its busiest time. The hunters are in the woods with them in the game, which is not the case in Pipestone County. The fields are at their busiest, and that's a very big safety concern for farmers. When a rifle round can reach every part of a field from any mile line with its effective range, with nothing to stop the bullet. With that being said, the deer population is at great risk of overharvest. With the range of a rifle reaching them from any mile line, there is now no safe zone for them. The DNR has done nothing to help from history repeating itself with over deer harvest. They have not stopped cross tagging. They have not moved the deer season off of the rut like our neighboring states have. They have not restricted party hunting. At this point, there is an unlimited amount of deer that can be harvested in the southwest corner of Minnesota. Anybody from out of state can come in and buy a tag. Anyone from the state can come in. There's no restrictions on how many deer can be killed, with no safe shelter for the deer to hide. That is not how we manage a healthy deer herd. That is how we eliminate a deer population and getting people and property hurt and damaged in the process. Thank you for hearing my concerns. I hope you consider upholding the shotgun only zone for Pipestone County.
My name is Mark Bishop. I live in Island. I have acreage, and I've been hunting since I was 12 years old. And the countless people that I've seen over the years versus the shotgun slugs, I've seen a lot of wounded animals die. And I believe with rifle, there is a better chance of harvesting that animal. Of course, with rifle, you have to use common sense. You have to know beyond your target what you're shooting at. And I do believe that it's better for the state of Minnesota to have a rifle season versus having shotgun slugs and party hunting. Because in the 80s, I was would hunt with all my aunts and uncles, and the countless slugs flying by your head was just totally crazy. And I do believe that the rifle season would be a lot better than the shotgun season. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Johnson. First, I gotta tell you, the reason we have deer now is nobody knows how to home butcher anymore. And as a 14-year-old kid, I shot 16 times with the single shot 16 gauge. We had 1 day. With the 9-day season, people are more relaxed. They will pick their shots better, and it'll go that way. And in 2013, Wisconsin DNR total incidents was the lowest level in history of the state. This coincides with their first statewide rifle deer hunting. So I do believe that a rifle is safer than a shotgun because of the skipping of the shotgun slug. So I hope that you guys vote in favor of the rifle. And remember, we have 9 days now, and we don't wear stuff like this now out in the field like they did in the early hunting. And the education of the kids, once they got older, the number of people that died in hunting accidents went doom. Now the biggest problem with deer hunters for accidents is falling out of the tree stand. Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw that statistic also, and most of the fatalities last year in the three-state area were falling out in tree stand, not shots.
Pipestone, where I grew up down in Jasper, once been a resident for 30 years, I still buy a non-resident every year. I hunt with my friends, camaraderie, got a lot of private land hunt. Slugs are very, very inaccurate. A rifle, like the gentleman said, you got 9 days now. Back in the day when it was a 2-day and a 4-day, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. Yeah. And we did things that we probably should have never done it, and probably everybody in this room would have done it, I'm sorry. Just all be honest, okay? And as far as deer population, I know a few farmers in the 3-county area that kind of control the population year round. There's too many deer. If that's the case, it's up to the state to control that. As far as the numbers and this point restrictions and all. And the gentleman said something about the safety that should be paramount to everybody. I'm a 24-year military veteran myself. You know what's behind the target, you'll take the shot unless you know what's behind it. Okay? There's safety zones. South Dakota, 660 feet, Minnesota, I think it's like 600 to my house, unless you have permission to be there. So that's an enforcement issue. Game wardens or somebody needs to do the job. You know, we all ethical hunters, we know the distance, we know what we're shooting at. I do a lot of bird hunting in Minnesota. I non-vet every year. I see a lot of dead deer with holes in them. They're from slugs. Hey guys shoot, they don't think they hit them, they knock them power not quite there because they're taking long shots. I walk a slough, there'll be dead fawn, dead does several times. Over. I'd like to take consideration to we don't think the wild west anymore. We're all pretty ethical. It's the population thing. We'll pay the state control that. Won't be a pass this ordinance and let us. The state says we can shoot them. The gentleman can build a gun and go out and shoot 320 yards. Why can't we? I won't spend $1,000. I got a 270 I've had for 10 years and it's just pretty good still. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Had a question for probably you. You said you party hunt?
Well, me?
Yes.
Nope, there's 3 guys in our group. We sit in blinds and
Small party.
when I was a young kid, we had 30 of them. We'd walk cornfields. And we'd be ducking on the end because slugs were flying by it. Yeah.
The one thing that concerns me is party hunting with rifles. I don't know if that's gonna work. I don't think you'll see that much.
Technology has changed. There's so many ground blinds and big blinds now, people just sit.
Yeah, in my store, I would say probably 5% are party hunting. Even with slugs, they're all going to blinds and tree stands. They have plenty of time to do it. So
I know some party hunters are sitting out there.
I'm sure they're up there. I'm sure they still do.
Dallas is party hunting with rifles is a concern, and that comes down to a law enforcement concern, not a firearm concern, in my opinion.
How would law enforcement affect that?
Yeah, you gotta be,
They're out there legally with a rifle, just happens you got half a dozen of them in the same field or the same place.
so mismanagement of the weapon, wouldn't matter if it's a shotgun or a rifle. If there's bullets flying all over the place, a heavier law enforcement presence would be greatly appreciated. I've been sitting in a ground blind and I've had guys drive pickups 5 feet from my ground blind with the guns out their windows. They didn't even know that I was sitting in the ground blind. They didn't have permission on that ground and I did. And it wouldn't matter if it was slugs or rifles.
And obviously, they're not supposed to be shooting from a vehicle regardless.
Correct.
Did the DNR give you any reason why they didn't change anything when it was previously over deer harvest? And they went to a shotgun zone, but they haven't changed any regulations and are going back to rifles? How they anticipate the population not going back down?
Of course, this was passed by the legislature, not the DNR. DNR was tasked with enforcing it. But when DNR people have talked to us, like at county events, statewide, they just said that, like was brought up earlier from 1942 when they began this, they did it for deer numbers reasons rather than safety reasons. But they said they did not intend to issue any more permits than they do currently.
It's unlimited right now.
Right, but I mean, obviously a certain number don't fill their, they might get a license if they don't necessarily get one. There sure seem to be plenty around. from the number that get hit by vehicles.
And those still are the.
Right, and those are still.
Did you say that the DNR was in charge of enforcing this?
They are in charge of enforcing it, but the legislatures who passed this law, not the DNR.
So if this does not get passed here, it becomes a county ordinance that the DNR has to enforce? Or is that a sheriff's?
If we were to vote for a shotgun only, continuation, the DNR would enforce.
That's why we have to do it pretty quickly, so it gets into the old literature that's going on.
I thought the sheriff had to enforce the county ordinance and the state wasn't going to.
My understanding.
In their last information they gave us, it says enforcement, DNR conservation officers will enforce shotgun only ordinances passed under this authority. They will not enforce more restrictive or confusing ordinance, for example, restrictions on caliber ammunition type or pistols. Enforcement then would instead fall on the county sheriff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just for a little clarification too, the way the legislator passed their law is they authorized rifle. But they gave the option to the county to supersede that. So if we don't do anything that's rifle, we would have to vote specifically to exclude rifle and be slug on.
Correct.
You guys know how many DNR law enforcement officers are in Southwest Minnesota?
I'll bet not many.
That there's
Three.
three. And how many counties?
So we've got one DNR officer from Murray County, and he takes the southern half of Pipestone County. There's another officer who takes northern half Pipestone County and another county.
Raise your hand if you talk to a DNR. Yeah. Most everybody has, but you don't have to think.
Oh, no, I'm just listening.
No. I guess one thing I've got to say is, so if you guys do pass this as a rifle this year, and it becomes a issue, can you go back next year and change it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's a big concern if you're locked in, if it does become a big problem.
No, we could change it year to
You
year.
can repeal your decision.
Right. But yeah, we only have to take action if we're gonna restrict it to shotgun only. If we do nothing, rifle will just be allowed.
What have the adjoining counties decided? Anything?
Great point.
Lincoln, Lyon, and Murray have allowed rifle. Rock, I believe, is shotgun only, and the rest we don't know yet. Better close by.
Nobles is shotgun.
Oh,
I don't think they've officially acted, but their intent is for county commissioners. I think they intend.
That's what I heard.
I don't think they voted on it yet.
This issue is the biggest feedback that I've had in 5 years as a commissioner.
It's great to see all you guys here today. We need more input from you guys.
I have not heard back from Cottonwood yet. I have not heard from them, but I did get information. It's further northwest Lockwood, Parle, with rifle.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, one thing I want to bring up is the difference in the county borders and the zones. There's 2 mile strip at the south end of Pipestone County that's in the zone that's with or goes. I happen to live right on that border, so as you.
But you've had to apply for doe tags for years in this state. You want to shoot a doe.
I know, and in our party hunt, we had some people do on one side and some on the other side.
That's part of being a responsible hunter. You need to know what you're shooting and where you're shooting it at.
That's
And
true.
I do the same. I'm hunting Jeffrey. That color line splits it right there.
Yeah.
I'm on both sides half the day, each day. So I
That
mean,
makes,
you
that
gotta
makes
know what
sense a
you're
little bit. This arbitrary line in the middle of nowhere.
That question about from county to county, one of the analogies that I've had is when you're driving down a state highway, you don't have to check the county sign to go to the next county to see what speed limit is. It's the same speed limit in every county. So how do you possibly enforce different hunting regulations from county to county? I just think it's gonna be a real quagmire to make sure everybody is compliant, so.
We're right next to South Dakota. They've been hunting rifles the whole time with the same amount of people, same farmland, same population.
Yeah.
They don't have it.
Restricted tag, so it takes 3 years to draw a rifle tag in each county, or each river for a resident. So they're restricted on how many tags they're giving out, and have many different regulations on doe and buck harvest, including restrictions on how many. So is it gonna be either or both? If you guys decide, is it gonna go strictly rifle? Or is it shotgun and rifle?
No,
Either or.
Yeah,
Either or.
you could still use your shotgun to shoot deer, you know, even if it's rifles allowed.
That's what I was wondering.
We don't force you to use rifle.
Right.
Mr. Ray.
Sure. Good. It was good. Jamie Van Dyke. I just want to say that we're already there at the rifles. We already got these guns out there. If you want to spend the money, you're going to shoot 800 yards. If you want to buy enough scope, you're going to shoot 800 yards already. So what's the difference? The only difference is now if you go to rifle, I don't know if that gun can be used anymore, but I'm sure it can. But with a rifle, you got one good shot. You're not lobbing shots out there 800 yards with 20, 30, 40 at a time, which you can do now already. So what's the difference? We are already there, gentlemen. And as far as the doe buck deal, our state is so screwed up on this whole deal. We should be applying for buck license, not doe license. We already got a businessman in here that fixes cars from deer kills. We're hitting deer left and right with vehicles. We're not harvesting near enough deer. The kids are getting into it as like they used to. And as far as I'm concerned, going with a rifle, you're lobbing one shell out there. You got one good shot. It doesn't matter how far you want to shoot from. You can go up to, if you want to spend the money, you can shoot 1,300 yards. I got a guy in South Dakota that can shoot 1,800 yards. He goes whoop on. If you want to spend the money, you can do it. You can still do it with an AR, but you're lobbing 14, 15, 16 shots out there. Slugs, same thing. You get a big old buck going across this, what you're gonna do? You're gonna start lobbing shells. You're gonna be, who knows, you'll be up here. I mean, is that safer than shooting one time with a rifle and trying to get him versus you got 10 guys out in the middle of the field shooting, trying to get this, big buck? That's the whole difference. Is I think it's a lot safer. Look how many deer stands have you seen since they have allowed this AR rifle to come out. You've never seen deer stands. It was all party hunting. I mean, if you want to go party hunting with a slug, go ahead. More power to you. I'd rather go sit in a deer stand and a heater with some beef jerky and some coffee. I'm going for the rifles. I'm all for the rifles. I think it's safer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can the county impose a out-of-state permit for out-of-state hunters? Or no party hunting in the county?
No.
Okay.
We can't set our own speed limits either, that's why.
Yeah.
I've got a question on muzzle loaders. I've never muzzle loaded hunting myself. What's the range velocity of a muzzle loader compared to a rifle?
It varies with the caliber of muzzleloader. 45 caliber is usually a little further.
Yeah.
But you're probably limited at about 300 is probably stopping.
And you can get those with rifle
Yes.
projectiles too in muzzle loader. Yeah.
It all depends on how much powder you put in your muzzle loader too,
Yeah.
versus the distance. Because if you only use 2 pellets instead of 3, 3 will get you farther out there. 2 is.
I've got a Thompson Center Hawkins that I fired. Don't go regularly deer hunting just because of time commitments, but I've taken out deer at 300 yards easily.
Yeah. Also, I've talked about muzzle loaders too. I know in the past, you could get a license for all 3. You could get archery, you could get muzzle loader, you could get slug. And you could take a deer with all 3 of those licenses. Years ago, you could take all 3. So now that they've restricted that, it hasn't really affected the herd. So the numbers are way high now.
Well, part of it I can vouch for because I hunt with 3 girls and we sit. But we also hunt over by the South Dakota border. And it's funny that we've seen some nice bucks with odd antlers and whatnot. Deer season comes on in Minnesota. Guess what? I've seen them up on top of the ridge. It's over a mile over into South Dakota. They're standing there on the ridge, walking around, looking at funny as heck. And South Dakota has their season and Thanksgiving time. They're back here in Pipestone County. I mean, we've seen that one buck. We've seen him every night for almost 3 months. And lo and behold, the night we went to see him, we were hunting and never seen hide nor hair of him. Went to a birthday party over at South Dakota over Flanders. Here he is, standing right there on the ridge, just pretty as can be.
They call them dumb animals, right?
They go into the monument. That's the other one.
Hi, guys, I'm Gene Van Person from Edgerton. I guess I'm just here to voice that I am strongly in favor of the rifle. I totally believe that it is 99% safer than slugs. I'm a prairie dog hunter. I go west prairie dog hunting, and we shoot from 1 yard to 500, and we're killing animals that are just, okay. So to me, with my 243. I'm thinking shooting this deer is going to be a real piece of cake.
Fishing barrel.
Yeah. You got a scope on it, you put them in the sights. That's why I am in favor, and I'm just about 66 years old. I'm sick of this walking bullshit. Thank you.
Very well said.
Don't print that.
On the video. See if we can bleep it out.
I understand, you know, a lot of the older gentlemen are excited for rifles because you can sit in the blind and you can shoot. But like we said, there's an option there for the pistol rifles. I got a 9-year-old son that's super excited to hunt next year, and I'm just really, I've been hunting for 30 years, and I can tell you, in all the areas I hunt, my trail camera pictures, I know there's a big population around Pipestone because they winter in the monument and the corn piles, but you get outside of Pipestone, the city limits, and the deer population goes down and down and down. Places where I used to have 20, 30 deer on camera all the time, we're down to like 6, maybe the same doe and a pair of twins. I mean, I really want you guys to ask yourselves, have you shot more deer in the last 10, 15 years than you used to? We see deer, and there's a lot more people traveling, so yeah, there are car accidents with deer, but the population really is, I believe, going down. And these younger kids that we are so excited for them to be able to shoot and go out and hunt with rifles, I don't think there's going to be a population there for them to hunt when they get there. Yes, there's options other than a shotgun. Like you said, the muzzle loader don't have that much of a kick. I've got a 10-year-old daughter that shoots muzzle loader, no problem. But if we make it easier to kill more deer, these younger kids are absolutely not going to go into hunting because there's going to be nothing left to chase. There's no excitement to shoot a spike buck. My daughter's 12 now, and a spike buck walks by, and she's excited because there's a little bit bigger one out there. You know, the excitement is the big mature bucks. That's what drives us to hunt. That's why we sit and we wait and pick our deer. And if we're picking them all off and there's nothing left but a button buck at the end of the year to recreate these does, you know, what's going to get these young kids in there that want to hunt? What good is the rifle season going to do us if there's nothing else?
And I kind of disagree with you on that. I think with these deer blinds being more and more throughout the county, I think we're teaching these kids the right way to hunt deer and not blast and blast and blast. And if we can teach these kids how to use these deer stands and lead by example, I think it's going to be better in the long run. Thank you.
I just come across from Doe Rapids, trying to come straight west of Jasper in the county, 260, I think it was. There's 30 deer in the state line, 4 dead ones in the ditch, 123 north of Jasper, 7 deer, 1 on island. There's a whole pile of them on the field. The state needs to regulate the population. That's up to the county commissioner, not up to us. Okay? We are allowed to shoot 1 deer per calendar year. Okay? Rifle's the way to go. To me, South Dakota, I fly. I get a tag every 3 years. I get a dog tag almost every year because they let somebody go up. That's why I come over here to hunt. I grew up in Jasper. I've hunted here for 40 years. I love it here. I got private land. I got a ton of public land to hunt. I paid $200. I'll pay $400 for it. I don't care. I love to hunt. Okay, rifle is the way to go. There's plenty of deer, and it ain't up to us to populate. It's up to this state to control that.
Another point I'd like to make, you talk about private public land. If indeed we don't vote to restrict to slug only, we allow it to revert to the state rifle. Again, you as landowner, of course, obviously it doesn't apply to public lands, but private land, you guys can control what type of weapon is used on your land. Even if rifles are allowed in the state, you can say on your land, no rifles. That's certainly up to you.
Aside from the point, how many other animals do we already hunt with rifles?
Yeah.
Coyotes.
Coyotes.
Pheasant, you can hunt with a 22. There's plenty of animals out there that already get hunted with rifles. I really don't think safety is an issue. What it boils down to is we got to teach the youth, get them, number one, excited about the sport, and number two, be good mentors, stewards for them. Otherwise, the sport's going to die, and then we're going to have more and more traffic accidents. And, I'd be willing to bet there's been more people killed in automobile accidents with a deer than there have been fatalities. I searched high and low on the internet, both South Dakota and Minnesota. South Dakota, I found 2 fatalities in the last 5 years. Hunting related. One was with bow and arrow. I'm not quite sure how that happened, probably with a crossbow, which was probably getting in and out of a tree stand. But Minnesota, I think 2 in the last decade. It's so fatalities, injuries is another thing. There are injuries, but fatalities, which I think would be the concern for all of us. But the majority of it was falling out of tree stands, mishandling of the weapon, and incorrect ID of their target, which scope on a rifle is going to eliminate that part of it by 95%, if not 100%.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of benefits between rifle or
Gavin Beelan.
So there's a lot of benefits between rifle and then also not doing rifle. Like teaching your kids right, that is the number one thing that's going to be safe in this area if we use rifle. But a big concern is the deer population. Say you drive from South Dakota to Jasper, that is a winter habitat. Every winter, 3 to 5 mile range, that's where all them deer go. You look at Island State Park, that's another winter habitat. Right on the east side of Jasper, to the south, that's where all them deer in a 3 mile radius go. I hunted a CRP since, I've been hunting since 09, archery hunting since 2013. I've been hunting the CRP since 2014, it's a half section. The past 4 years have been very low on deer numbers. I used to see 10, 12 deer out there. Like now, I'd be tickled pink if I see 3. I mean, just because you're seeing a lot of deer now and they're getting hit on the road, that's their winter habitat areas. You got to think about when they spread out summertime, the numbers are kind of low. You just look at where they are between the monument, populations are high. But rifle would be great, like people say, 1 shot, 1 kill. One thing to take into consideration, single action rifles. If you only need 1 shot to kill a deer, why do you need a 30-round mag? So that's a big safety thing too, and that will prevent people from their party hunting. They think they can load up 30 rounds on a deer. They're not paying attention what's behind them. That's one thing about it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
In response to that, and not disagreeing with what he said. I listen to anybody, get their point of view, but I think if people are out there rifle hunting, the vast majority of them are not going to be out there with an AR platform with 20 rounds in the magazine. I personally hunt with a 243 or 300 I've got 3 rounds. And 98% of the time, I only need 1.
But there are exceptions to that rule too.
Actually, there's
gonna be some people out there where they are.
we have that ready. We have that ready, people out there just hunting stupid. I have witnessed it myself. They're standing in the ditch, spraying bullets. And that happens, you can get AR platform shot into that hole. How many darn rounds? And they're doing the same thing with that. I mean, they're just high capacity. You guys want to limit the number. You know, rounds that a gun can carry, by all means, put it at 3. I don't think you'd have any argument from anybody here.
That's not our job.
I get that, so I'm saying this guy wants to.
So by something I wish the legislature had.
I would agree with that. There's no reason to do around with 20 rounds of sentence.
I lived 17 years at the Pipestone Lincoln County line on Highway 75. I farmed for the state and to provide deer and pheasant feed for them in the winter. What really controls the deer population is the severity of the winter. The big bucks die first, or the little fawns, they all die. And then after that, the does. The old doe is the one that stays there. And that's what nature wants, is that old doe to have 1 fawn, and they will absorb their fawns to survive. So the hunting, yes, it does do something to the deer population, but there used to be 400 deer come out of the Lake Benton woods to the wildlife management area that I farm. And some springs, you take the combine out there, you might as well take in the stock chopper. And other springs, if the winter was open, you got a half a corn crop. So the management of the deer population depends more on Mother Nature than on if we use a shotgun or a rifle.
So that's correct. My son and I plant 2 different deer food plots, and a couple years ago, there was not a kernel of corn. Yeah, it was all empty cobs. And this year, it'll probably be, like you say, half a crop.
Or 3/4.
Yeah. But if more people did that, we would have more deer. But everybody farms fence row to fence row nowadays. And
Do you still see 400 deer out there coming to the wildlife area?
No, there's a woke gal in New Ulm that has got grazing going on the hole in the mountain wildlife management area. And there was one year there was no corn, and it was a bad winter. And the guys that own the woods up in Lake Benton said the woods were full of dead deer in the spring. And now they got some corn back, but that one woke woman, she's destroyed a lot of pheasants and deer. And she's out of New Ulm. And she is with the DNR. And yes, I would like to see her hung up. Because the wildlife management area state law is to protect the soil, the water, and to produce wildlife for public hunting.
Is she against deer food plots? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
We talked about the legislators a little bit, if you allow me to advance a little bit about our legislators, you can all do that, of course.
Me too.
If they had the courage to make a decision, we wouldn't be here today debating this issue. It was the same thing a number of years ago with the tobacco ordinance. They kicked that down to counties to enforce the tobacco ordinance. They didn't want to get the pushback from the tobacco industry. Same thing now with this cannabis ordinance. We've got no control of cannabis. The state told us you will do it, period. Isn't it strange? We can control liquor license, but we can't control cannabis. That's kind of odd. So I wish that they had the courage to do the right things that are down here. I will say though, I am just so pleased to see all you guys here discussing this. I don't think there's a mad person out there. That's kind of nice. But it's nice we can come together and discuss issues and again, we don't have a lot of control of the outcome. Other than we could say no rifles, we do have that authority, but I really personally, and as you know, we're not going to vote tonight, but I personally can't see supporting limiting rifles, and make them slug only. I think there set some very good points. And again, I can certainly respect, other opinions that it should stay slug. I felt the same way as far as safety, but the more we studied it and so forth, I would have to agree that from a safety standpoint, I don't think there's really a lot of difference between weapons. I really don't.
We come up to the mics or your card.
Yeah, I just wanna make one more. I kinda wanna. I feel sorry for you guys that you have to make that decision, really.
Well, this is one of the easier ones.
Well, the DNR, you know,
Just get a lot of help with it.
when they brought crossbows in a couple of years ago, they didn't ask you guys to regulate anything. They're gonna change the walleye limit to 4. They didn't ask your guys' opinion. You guys are not biologists. So why are they putting this on your guys' backs now? And honestly, I have a family history of being part of the DNR, and the DNR is upset with the legislation also. And they're putting it on your guys' back so they have somebody to blame because they know it's going to damage the population. I've heard it all the way from my relative that worked for the DNR.
Yeah.
They're putting it on you guys. You're not biologists. You don't know what's best for everything for the wild, and they've never asked your opinion before. But now here you are, so they have somebody to blame. So I'm sorry you guys have to make this decision.
Yeah.
And you know,
They don't have to agree. You mentioned the crossbows. Now I understand that the AR pistols, that came from the federal government. Is that correct?
I guess I'm not sure.
For the state.
You know,
Hey, who authorized the AR pistols? Was that federal?
Pistols have been legal for years.
Yeah.
These are new
Well, there was a
platforms, essentially.
whole history with the AR brace, the pistol brace. It started out with a wounded warrior.
Sure.
vet.
And the same with
And
crossbows.
They said the ATF said he could use that brace. They said they said they seen people shouldering, so then they said no.
Yeah.
And then they came back and got sued, and then they said they could. Then they came back again and said no. And because they're being too ambiguous, they lost in court, and the judge put a stay on it. So now we can use the pistol brace again, and people are shouldering. Sure.
And I'm really glad you pointed out about this, because I felt the same thing. The round that's being used is the same, whether it's
Same.
the same rounds can have the same velocity, same carry.
I just grabbed that one because that's what I got in the store right now, and I sold another one just like it, pistol, just like it, so the guy can hunt.
Yeah.
And so it's out there, and they're going to use them, you know. And I want to say 50% of the hunters almost are using AR pistols because it's easier to make the shot. They're in tree stands, they're in blinds. One guy converted an old single axle camper for him and his kids, and got on his farm to go out and as a blind. So it's, even if you take rifles away, they're going to be using rifle caliber.
Yeah, because we couldn't stop that if we wanted to.
No. And the thing is with an AR pistol, you can now have it loaded on your seat next to you if you have a permit to conceal and carry. Where you can't have a rifle loaded, you can have it uncased, but you can't have it loaded in the vehicle.
You can't even have a hole in the vehicle unless it's in the case.
Yeah, you know, I mean, but you can have a loaded pistol in your pickup on your seat next to you while you're. So I think if we go to rifle hunting, it'll take a season or two to adjust. But I think people will adjust away from the party hunting and make them the same, or get as far as safety is concerned, and then it'll be a different mindset, and it'll take a period of time to change that mindset. You know.
I would like to see a discussion with a DNR officer having a loaded pistol on the seat during deer season.
Oh, I did.
They did, and they let them out.
Oh, yeah, they let me, I took my
Concealed carry.
44 Magnum on a seat all the time.
If you have a concealed carry. But you need to have a concealed carry permit.
Right, you gotta have a permit, yeah.
And probably a hunting license.
Yeah. Unlegal, yeah.
We don't have a DNR officer here tonight, of course, they're not gonna come anywhere close to that.
No.
Can anyone tell me, and maybe I'm getting off track here, but so I used to go hunting by my brothers over in Murray County. They pass rifles. Okay. Now I've always been under the impression, the understanding that if I'm going over there to slug hunt, which it always was in the past, now I can go over there with a rifle. But if I'm in Pipestone County, I've been under the impression that you mightn't have a rifle in your vehicle during slug season. Can I drive from my house by Edgerton to Murray County now with that rifle? During slug season?
If it's empty in case.
Yeah, but in the past, you might do that.
I think
You wouldn't- You couldn't have the ammunition in your truck.
You couldn't have
You couldn't have
ammunition or
shells in
anything.
your cup holder.
And made fire.
Right.
I don't think you could legally even have the rifle.
No, you can't possess it during deer season.
Yeah,
It's gonna be an enforcement nightmare. You can shoot a deer in Murray County.
We cross lines now.
But if I shoot a deer in Murray County and I get stopped in Pipestone with a rifle hole in it, taking it home to clean it. How do they know where I shot it?
Like,
Well, yeah, but people can lie.
Hunters don't do that.
That's fishermen.
It's only fishermen that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but state legislature says we can use rifles statewide now.
Yeah.
So if you guys choose to act on this, you're gonna supersede what state law says.
Correct.
So the state already says it's good to go.
Yeah.
So I mean, so there's no issue of a caliber, we can, if you guys choose not to act, it just carries forward.
Right.
If you choose to act, you have to pass an ordinance, then you're gonna supersede state law.
And that would allow the use of shotguns.
And I would, you know.
Or
Limited shotgun.
So right now, you could, I mean. We can use rifle if you're seeing what.
You do nothing, you can carry anything you want to out there.
So it's a state law as we're talking right now.
Yes.
Would you guys enact a mag limit?
No.
The only,
It's just rifle, yes or no?
Yes, that's.
And I'm with that gentleman up front. You can't have her 5 shells, go back to the range. I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter if you can throw in 1 or 2.
Correct. I'm saying,
You have
you don't,
freedom to carry it
Going
around.
Yeah.
On your AR pistol. And so, yeah, I don't agree with that.
And I would think most people in the room probably agree with you on that. No reason for it.
that's why it's better to go to rifle. You got 1 shot versus 50.
But it's not saying you have to have a rifle with 5 shells.
Yeah.
You can have a rifle with 5 shells.
Yeah.
I can still walk around there with a pistol with a picture on your own.
Yep.
I don't like
And you
that.
can shoot just as far and, you know, you start spraying shells. I think that's more dangerous than going with a rifle.
That's what I'm saying. I wish there was there was more that you could teach it than just yes or no.
Yeah. A lot of it boils down to safety and ethics. Which I think 90% of us in this room are probably pretty damn good at safety and ethics.
And one of the things I've heard time and time again tonight, from you guys, it really encourages me is our responsibility as adults to teach our children correctly. And that's the most important job we've got.
Absolutely. Somebody taught us.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't, you might have put me in the ground.
Last couple of years up there, it's pretty scary. There's a lot of big kids.
Well, in all fairness, the last few years, my grandson took the course and they were required, he was 100% online, he was not required to spend days in the field. So that's on the DNR state was ever mandating that program.
Computer classroom online, last day is in the field.
Not during COVID, they wait.
Oh.
Okay, done.
Right, it's over. They have to put it. We got the generation, so hunters out there.
That was 1 year.
So unless I was.
I've been teaching for 35 years. For 1 year, we didn't even have a course that.
That's the time of year it gets slipped through their parents, grandparents. Responsible enough for teaching them right. I don't recruit online. I think that should be all classroom, interactive with an instructor, teach them the basics, being able to ask a question rather than just regurgitating. And when it comes to the test, they go back and they look up the information. It's this open book test, which you don't retain anything from open book test. I don't believe.
We got trouble. Parents bring kids to 7 meetings. We have trouble with kids showing up for all 7 meetings.
I get that.
And we got trouble when
But what
the
you
truckers
really
are traveling, he can't make 7 meetings. So we do it online and it's been working out well. Kids in.
Then we should have a problem, right? It's working on well. And I'm not disagreeing. if they're getting the proper training, then shouldn't have any issues with safety from the other.
But you know, you can volunteer to be fair and nice instructor.
I think if you go back far enough, I mean, I remember when I took gun safety training, we did it at our school. Of course, now it's zero tolerance, we can't have a gun at school. And yeah, when I went to school, most of the kids had a gun in the back window of their pickup. And we went running, you know, in the woods right next door.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's still legal to drive around with a loaded weapon in your vehicle.
You can't have one in the chamber.
With it.
Magazine is,
You can begin out and have one chamber. You can drive around and, you know, again, how many fatalities or accidents they have in South Dakota? Far more with a shotgun during pheasant season than with rifles during deer season.
Yeah, there's too many people out in the field at one time.
And even a lot of those injuries are like people climbing over a fence or, you know,
Oh,
something where they just shoot themselves by accident.
I read that.
You can't mix students.
Right. Does anyone else want to come up and speak?
Chairman, Roger Smith stopped in this morning and visited with us for a few minutes. He couldn't be here tonight and wanted to state here that he is for the rifle hunting. And kind of list of things that he put on here about how shooting with shotguns and controlling deer population. And the accuracy and the ethical shooting is superior with the rifle. New technology increases the slug range. Semi-auto shotguns and pumps were very popular and are very popular. Mostly bolt action rifles are more accurate shootings. Rifles allowed for predators with no safety issues at all. High-powered rifles lose most of their energy after striking an object versus slugs. During deer season, he stated many times corn is still standing to reduce the range of the shots as well. And then he had a little bit of a point here that a 12 gauge slug versus 30-06 rifle fired parallel to the ground at 8 feet. The 12 gauge would drop to the ground first, but rebound further than 30-06 after its drop and rebound. So he just wanted me to read that into the record. I think he couldn't be here. We have another commitment.
Hey, with that velocity of the slug, you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't find the article. I've been looking. I read an article in a magazine, a gun magazine, a few years back. And then, like I said, the military did testing on that. And the slug always ended up further downrange than the rifle.
Because of the mass. It has
because of the
more
mass.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a very interesting article. I should have tried to save it back then, but who knew we were.
He quoted that, he said, from an American Hunter magazine, but he didn't say when. So
Yep, he must have read the same article I did then.
Well, again, if we choose not to do anything, it will revert to rifle. And if we do that again, you property owners have every right to not allow rifles on your property if that's your choice. No way the state can tell you what you can or cannot do on your property. Obviously, they can limit the weapons you can use, but you can also limit what you allow on your property.
And I actually see most of the hunters going to bolt action rifles over the AR platform.
Yeah.
Well, the AR platform is the most popular gun platform out there currently.
Yeah.
I just really believe that most deer hunters and hunters prefer the bolt action over.
Is that because of the nostalgia of it? Because it doesn't really change the accuracy, does it not?
Be a little bit of comfort when you're sitting in the tree stand and hunting,
Yeah.
you know, I think, and just maybe nostalgia.
Yeah.
It just seems proper.
And for us old guys, it's just comforting, just open up that bolt and you know that it's safe. You don't have to.
If it's more accurate, they are, unless you want to spend, $10,000 for an AR platform gun, they'll shoot that well. Bolt guns will always outshoot the semi-auto, so they're more accurate.
I'd just like to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Sharing your opinions with us.
This is terrific, guys. I really appreciate seeing y'all here.
When do you guys plan on making a decision? Or when's your deadline for having it in the state?
Not till really later in the summer before they go to French.
Actually, the DNR will notify us by March 1st of what our options are to pass restrictive ordinances or not, what we want to do. So we don't have to do anything at this point until after March.
In the newspaper, or how will we?
I requested it to be on the agenda for March tenth. And we are gonna take a vote, so
It'll be on the record.
By March tenth. March tenth, commissioners meeting.
And that's so DNR can start printing their publications with all that information on it. That's why they said that.
So if you guys don't wanna get in the middle of it and do nothing, we get rifles.
Correct.
Right, yeah. I think that's a good decision.
They're already in the middle of it.
Not really, and the state says they can use it.
That's right.
It's your choice to.
We would have to say that.
Mr. Chair, just like Steve, I had two people reach out to me. Matt was one that sent an email, and the other one's Brandon Burkpass. And he couldn't be here tonight, so he just wanted me to point out three things. He's in support of the rifle for three reasons: greater stopping power, resulting in a quicker and more humane harvest, higher success rate, which has been brought up here numerous times. Then most incidents, shotguns have a higher recoil and result in more wounded deer. And he could elaborate, he's got a lot, but I think he's just echoing a lot of the points that were brought up next. But I didn't want to end the meeting without Brandon having his right, his plans.
Anyone else want to speak?
it's not a meeting, it's a hearing. We don't think.
So would you guys be able to change the price for, say, out of state tags? Cause like one concern is we're a bordering county. Since there's a week between the Minnesota slug and the South Dakota rifle. What's to say how many people from South Dakota? So I know an out of state takes a lot cheaper than in Minnesota than is an out of state take for us in South Dakota. And our chances of actually getting a South Dakota tag for rifle in South Dakota is pretty slim. So it's how many South Dakotans are going to come over, shoot a deer in Minnesota, then they get a week break and they start their deer season.
Unfortunately, we have no say in that.
Yeah, the state doesn't. Authority.
Good.
I don't know why we have any authority over this.
Yeah.
Because they're serving here.
And I'll speak on that behalf. I'm a South Dakota resident. Yeah. I come over here, cost me $200, I'll pay $400. Yeah. There's bigger deer over there, because we do a lot.
Okay, you guys do it right.
Yeah, and then to me, I won't shoot a little deer over here. My daughter can, I'm not. Unless it's a big one, I'm shooting a doe. I want the meat. I go over here because my buddy's here. They got a lot of private land up. And you guys do a great job with habitat over here. You have a bunch of public land. I grew up in Jasper for 25 years. That's why I hung up here. I know a lot of you guys in this room. Like, I grew up here, okay? That's why I'm here. We should pay more, yes, I agree. That's a state issue. But if I'm gonna get a big deer, I'm not hunting over here.
Well, don't tell them that in Minnesota, because they'll be glad to charge you more.
Hey, but you know what? You guys paid it over there, 2.5?
Yeah, I would agree.
He goes to South Dakota, he's got 3 wall hangers just across the border, because they're bigger over there. Because the state does a better job of controlling it. And I'm all for a point restriction or lottery. Like the gentleman said earlier, shoot does, lottery, draw for a buck tag. That's how they get big. You know, I shot a 10-pointer, I don't need a bigger one.
There's no more big deer, any big deer over here, he's still gonna come over.
I haven't for years. I've eaten a tag in this state 6 straight years. I went home with my buddies, camaraderie, it's like the military. It's all about camaraderie. We get done, we put the guns away, we have medicine, and we drink beer. We talk smart. That's what I'm supposed to be in dead that I'm alive. It's all about the hunt.
I hope the deer are there to.
They are. I know some farmers that take care of the population themselves because we're not killing them. I drive all over the country. There's so many deer, I don't know where you're looking, but that's right. So there's a lot of dead deer in the ditches.
I've ran over 3 of them in the last 5 years, going from Pipestone to Ward. 3 of them.
Yeah. There's more deer hunters in the state of Minnesota than there are people.
That's
a fact. You're not comparing apples.
Does anyone else want to come up and speak at all? Or wrap things up?
Somebody told me that the insurance company wants us to use rifle to shoot more deer, so they can get that really kind of. So that's a good excuse that I heard.
They probably won't lower our race. Last chance, anyone wanna come up and say anything?
You guys wanna vote before we leave?
No.
Well, this is the hearing, Mr. Chairman, if I can add.
Yeah.
Could we just see like a show of hands, my other county or administrators around and say, you know, what people are telling them when they stand, how many for rifle? Just by show of hands.
Yeah.
There's about 40 of you in the room right now. Okay. Shotgun?
Limited.
Okay.
And we respect that. We really do. Respect everyone. Respect it because that's your opinion. Your opinion. And it's got merit.
And whatever you guys do, I'm still coming over and telling every year. I love it. I mean, I grew up here. I don't care. I like to shoot rifle, but I won't shoot slugs.
Yeah.
I don't shoot more than 100 yards.
You can make that extra $200 check out this Pipestone County.
But that-
Said you could pay $400 for it, so make it
Hey, if they're
$200.
I'll pay it. I come over to face too. And I grew up here.
How many archery hunters? Yeah.
You know, the way the state works around here, the change is inevitable. And who knows where we might be talking about this in 2 or 3 years again. It's hard to say. Who knows?
Mr. Chairman, can I close the close? I was in the theater.
Close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
It's not a meeting.
Who seconded that?
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Second.
Valley, and you?
After recommend.
All in favor, say
Turn to gate 11.
I thought.